To be well-rounded and to be able to bring what I think would be important stories, I watch most of the news channels, Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. And I keep abreast of the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and some of the other smaller Politico, some of the other organizations, the Daily Beast. And, I just kind of casually keep an eye on them. And I even go through TMZ, what's that team? Some sort of a network, it's a Hollywood group of reporters. I follow them as well so I can, when I sit before you on a daily basis. Last night, I watched the 9 o'clock segment of Fox News and Sean Hannity from soup to nuts, so from beginning to end pretty much. And I was very disappointed. Now, I've had problems watching Fox News. I really have not been a Fox News watcher since Bill O'Reilly days. I think he was the best, though he was pretty big on bringing all those blonde stallions out there and sitting before them like a Mac Daddy. But Fox News has lost my respect, but I do watch them. Tucker Carlson, I watch him as well. He's a weird guy. He looks weird. But I was very disappointed last night that Sean Hannity failed to open his show with the fact that the Washington Post had just broken the story that Cy Vance had seated a grand jury to hear the charges, criminal charges against Trump, potentially Alan Weisselberg, Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, and some of the sons of Eric Weisselberg. That was a huge, or still is, a huge story, all things considered. You see that headline there. That is perhaps a headline that will live for quite some time, that a criminal probe has now been launched against former President Donald Trump, and to weigh whether or not to bring potential charges, as you can read by Shana Jacobs and David Farenthal. And I can tell you that Cy Vance, a well-experienced district attorney here in New York, would have never allowed it to be reported that he is criminally investigating Trump, and his investigation has reached a point where he's completed the investigation. He's found criminal activity, and he has seated a grand jury to bring an indictment before he actually arrests Trump and bring him to trial. That's understood. That's clear. But the very fact that Sean Hannity didn't mention this, he didn't mention it. He was talking about the fact that Joe Biden had discontinued a investigation into the Wuhan virology lab, and that Trump had started an investigation that the coronavirus pandemic had gotten started in China, and Trump was investigating that, and Joe Biden has shut down the investigation. He went on to call Joe Sleepy Joe, and a bunch of other names, and in the pocket of China, and he's turned the investigation over to the World Health Organization that's in the pocket of China as well. I was very disappointed in the integrity of Sean Hannity. Now, I am no Biden supporter. I am no Black Lives Matter man. You know that. I don't go for the Democrat Party. You know that. I ain't for none of these people, but I'm not for Trump either. But I have noticed now over the past 3 to 4 years that the Fox News has become completely disingenuous. Now, CNN and MSNBC, they have become, if you will, ambulance chasers. Listen, they're going to give more courage to George Floyd, the killing of one man, they're going to give to the shooting in San Jose or Sandy Hook, because it brings eyeballs. I think what CNN is doing, I think they ought to be charges, a discovery ought to be brought about the monies that they're making, and they ought to be brought upon charges of inciting the deaths of young black men. That's what I think about CNN. But I've also looked at Fox News over the past 4 years, and I remember a couple of years ago, Sean Hannity called me for an interview. I was on one of his broadcasts many moons ago, and he called me for an interview, and I refused to do it, mainly because of his licking and sucking up to Donald Trump. I said, one may have not considered that a wise decision. I should have went on and stated my case, but I just couldn't stomach it. But what I saw last night was appalling, was absolutely incredulous. It was patently hypocritical. that Sean Hannity didn't make mention that a grand jury is now getting ready to indict Donald Trump and bring him up on criminal charges, and a whole slew of them. That, I think his audience should have been made aware of that. And he moved on from the Wuhan virology and the World Health Organization, now giving Joe Biden shutting it down and giving it to the World Health Organization, moved on to stating that there were gunshots yesterday on Chicago Avenue and 39th Street in front of the Cup Foods, where George Floyd was murdered, where they've got a shrine there now. And yesterday was George Floyd Day everywhere, all over America. And while people were gathered about midday, Sean Hannity ran a clip saying there were gunshots, a drive-by shooting took place at that event. But basically what I saw happen is that Sean Hannity introduced that there were a drive-by shooting, and what I heard was something like 20, 25, 30 shots. If you've seen that shrine in front of the Cup Foods where George Floyd allegedly, where he was murdered, and they've got that shrine there now, and people were gathered there, and people started running because they heard a gunshot. Or some people began to disperse. I don't think running because they heard the gunshots. But my question is this, my brothers, is that, you know, I've scanned the news and maybe I missed the story being recorded someplace else. If there were gunshots at a George Floyd gathering, if there was gunshots at a George Floyd memorial gathering, looked like every news channel in the world would have covered that. And they weren't just one or two gunshots. We're talking about a whole ton of them. So I'm saying, well, why is it that only Sean Hannity, reporting this? Now, if there are other news networks that picked up this story, got the sound of the gunshots, and got more info on it, I'm willing to hear it. But right now, I've scanned all the news services, and the only person who reported this was Sean Hannity. So I'm going to let you listen to it now, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us. It sounds like gunshots. I'll let you know what this is. These seem to be gunshots. Where is that? We're okay. We're just going to go. Let's go. Down.
Now, I haven't seen the story anyplace else. But that was on Sean Hannity last night. That was on that broadcast. It seemed to be, I have my suspicion, it did not seem to be a lot of people in the square on yesterday. There's supposed to be a George Floyd memorial service. It was George Floyd Day, a 1-year anniversary of his death, and the place looked scant of people, that there were nobody there. Now, I'm not saying that Sean Hannity broadcast a fake story last night. That is not what I'm saying. And I don't want to go that far to say that he did. The little respect I have left for Sean Hannity is that he would never do anything like that, actually produce a fake story. I mean, that would be so incredibly and patently racist to say that there was, and you heard it sounded like 35, 40 gunshots. You heard it. I don't know if it was gunshots or firecrackers or what. But to say that there was gunshots at a George Floyd 1-year anniversary of his death memorial and no other news services has picked it up is a bit strange. Now, again, I give way to the fact that perhaps some other news sources picked it up. I do. I just haven't been able to find it. And I find it terribly disingenuous of Sean Hannity to not report that. And not only did he not report, to report that, but not report about Trump, potentially a grand jury looking at criminal charges against Donald Trump, the first in history. This is historical. This has never happened. A grand jury sitting to hear evidence against a former president of the United States has never happened. This is the biggest story of the universe. And he didn't report it last night, didn't make one word about it. Now, there was, he did have on Mark Levin. He calls him the great one. The man looks like he's sicker than sick. Mark Levin, you know him. And he briefly made mention of it after he went through a whole lot of rants about Black Lives Matter and the Black Panthers. And you know how they go through that whole cacophony of their anti, if you will, liberal media, fake news. Okay, all right. But at the very tail end of what Mark Levin had to say was that this sitting of a grand jury was politically charged as a witch hunt given by Democrats here in New York City. He did that last night, but that's all he did. He didn't really get into it. Mark Levin. And I don't know why Sean Hannity worships Mark Levin. He ain't nobody. Why does Hannity worship him, calling him the great one and on and on and on? He ain't nobody here in New York. He ain't nobody nowhere else either, I'll tell you that. And then the other thing Sean Hannity didn't do is that Marjorie Taylor Greene been running around here calling mask wearing equated with Jews wearing gold stars during the days of Hitler and the Holocaust, amid a whole lot of other things. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I put out a tweet yesterday saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene is now the 5-star General Greene of the MAGA nation. And she's become a bad mamma jamma. No, the woman's got all the press. She's raised $3 million. She's going to raise $7 million. She's going to raise $10 million. She's the largest political fundraiser right now in America, bar none. And she's saying all these outrageous things. Some people may call them outrageous. She can call it. I don't necessarily know if they're not necessarily outrageous. I disagree with the whole analogy about the Jews. I think that was a disrespectful and contemptible to talk about Jews in that way. And I think somebody ought to wash her mouth out with soap, with bar soap, for degrading the Jews as she did. But having said that, you know, Kevin McCarthy came yesterday, and finally, after 5 days, he condemned it, called it appalling. Scalise boy, he also said that it was not of his liking. And the Stefanik, the woman now that's taking Liz Cheney's place, Representative Eloise Stefanik, she also condemned it as well. And Sean didn't cover that. And I'm wondering now, Sean's got 3 million viewers every night. Are they aware of these stories? Because, you know, the Fox News people, the Fox News viewer, they don't watch nothing else. They don't watch CNN. They don't watch MSNBC. If it ain't on Fox News, they ain't going to know about it. Unless they listen to me. But if it ain't on Fox News, the Fox News viewers, they don't know about it if it ain't on Fox News. So I'm thinking to myself, it's disingenuous and it's poor journalism to keep your audience in the dark about something as critical. And maybe the reason why Sean didn't cover the fact that the Washington Post broke that story yesterday about former President Tribulation Trump, that there's a grand jury that has been convened to indict him, is because it is so intimidating. It is so powerful that even the Fox News viewer would be angry at Sean Hannity for promoting it. There's a sick psychology. I've been a pastor for 40 years. I can tell you, people can run some games and there can be some sick psychology that people promote. And they can get mad with you for telling them the truth. You know, you heard the old adage, they killed the messenger. They shoot the messenger. You heard that. They killed the prophets. And so that maybe that's the reason why he didn't do it, because he said, let him find out from somebody else about the grand jury hearing about Trump. But this is deep trouble for Trump. This is one that he's not going to be able to get away with. Cy Vance would not have brought a grand jury seating if he wasn't confident that he can get a conviction at trial, a criminal conviction on Trump, and perhaps a lot of other people as well. But I'm very disappointed at Sean Hannity. But I guess that's par for the course. It was a political move. It was not a move of journalism. There's stories I will not do. That I won't do them mainly because of the ethics of them. But you can't not do that story, that a grand jury here in New York has been seated to indict Trump, to bring him into court on criminal charges where potentially he could spend the rest of his life in jail. But not just him. but a large number of the people associated with him. That's big news. It's the story of the century. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.